It was Monday morning, and we were sitting at the kitchen table after finishing breakfast. I was sipping my coffee while reading the newspaper when my wife said, "Chad, could you put the newspaper down? I need to talk to you." I set the paper on the table and she continued, "I'm leaving you, Chad. I want a divorce." "Is that all?" I asked, picking the newspaper back up and flipping to the sports section. "I'm serious, Chad," she insisted. I ignored her, which only made her more upset. "Damn it, Chad. Put down that newspaper and talk to me about this. I have nothing to say except goodbye. It's not much of a loss anyway. You haven't been worth a damn as a wife for over a year, so just go." I put the newspaper down, stood up, and walked to the home office. I grabbed a notebook and pen from my desk, pulled an envelope from a drawer, and returned to the kitchen table. I wrote on the top sheet of the notebook, "Tyrone, thank you, thank you, thank you, and thank God. She is leaving me." As I was about to place the note in the envelope, I had an idea. I pulled out one of the lottery tickets I had bought the night before and added it to the envelope. Then I wrote, "Maybe if you get lucky and win, it'll be enough to keep the cheaters satisfied, so she won't cheat again. Good luck, kid. You're going to need it." I signed it, a very grateful Chad, folded the sheet, placed it in the envelope, sealed it, addressed it, and handed it to Kathy. "When you see him, give him this." She took it, shock written all over her face. "You know, just because you think I'm ignorant doesn't mean I actually am." "Perhaps," I replied, reclaiming the envelope from her. "Maybe I should mail it myself. I don't trust you not to open it, read it, and then throw it away. Now, why don't you go pack your things and get out of my life? And since you're leaving, you need to be out of the house as soon as possible." "I'm not going anywhere. I'm not moving out just so you can bring your lover in." I stood up, poured coffee into a travel mug, topped it off, and headed to work. On the way, I stopped by the bank, closed our savings and checking accounts, and emptied our safe deposit box. Then I went to a bank closer to work and opened new accounts in my name only. Next, I called to cancel all our joint credit cards and arranged for new cards to be issued in my name only. After that, I focused on my day-to-day tasks. I stayed late after work, had dinner and drinks with my executive assistant, and mentioned that I was back on the market if her sister was still interested. Maria laughed and said, "To hell with my sister. If you're single again, I want to be first in line." Maria had started with me as a secretary 10 years ago, proving so valuable that I promoted her to my assistant 4 years ago, and later, to my executive assistant 2 years ago. Once, on a Sunday, I had a backyard barbecue and invited Maria, but she had to decline because her sister was visiting from out of town. So, I suggested she bring her sister along. Tara was a very busty, attractive blonde, and on Monday, Maria told me with a laugh that Tara had a crush on me. I chuckled and said, "Never mention it to Kathy. She can be, and sometimes is, insanely jealous." Now Maria was saying she was interested in me, and I had never realized she could feel that way. "All right," I said jokingly, "then Tara moves to second place, and you can take first." "I'm not joking at all, boss. I'm dead serious. I want to give it a try." "Maria, you might not agree when you hear what I have to offer." "What exactly?" "She wants a divorce, so I'm leaving it to her and her lover. I have no idea what their schedule might be." "Her lover? She slept with the guy about 1.5 years ago, and I think she finally decided that a few days a week with him isn't enough, so she's going full-time." "How long have you known?" 1.5 years. "I knew almost from the day it started." "How did that happen?" "A friend of mine saw her going into a motel room with a man and called me. I hired a private detective to follow her for a week, and he got me all the information I needed." 1.5 years, and you did nothing about it? What was I supposed to do? Get angry and turn my life upside down? In this state, divorce is no fault. Everything would have to be split in half, and I'd have to sell the house and split the proceeds with her. I'd have to give up the pool, the hot tub, my woodworking shop, and the 3-car garage and move into some apartment. No thanks. I decided to just ignore it and let her cook for me, do my laundry, and keep the house clean. How could you be around her knowing she was cheating on you? You'd be surprised how quickly love can turn to hate, and then hate turns into indifference. I can't believe a healthy guy like you could go 1.5 years without sex. Who said anything about going without sex? As long as Kathy was offering, I was taking. The frequency did decrease somewhat, though. I didn't touch her on the days I knew she was with him. Other than that, the only change was that I stopped making love and just had sex. Do you have any idea why she did it? No idea, but he probably wasn't the first. You think she had other lovers? I can't know for sure, but what I do know is that in the 10 years we've been married, she fell into a certain mood 4 times, as far as I can remember. For a time, she acted the way she has for the last year and a half since she got involved with this guy. It's just a guess on my part, but I'd almost bet that the other times were for the same reason. If she hadn't been seen, and I hadn't been alerted, I would have taken her recent mood as just another one of those women's things. Maybe I'm wrong in my thoughts, but it doesn't really matter. I know for sure about this affair, and that's all I need to know to understand she's a cheater. What are you going to do now? Wait for what? To see what she plans to do. Now she's on her own. I emptied the bank accounts, canceled all her credit cards, and told her to get out of the house. She wanted a divorce, so I decided to leave it up to her. Since she doesn't earn enough to support herself and pay a lawyer, she'll have to get money for a lawyer from her lover, and I don't know if he'll give it to her. I assume they discussed this before she hit me with it, but I have no way of knowing. I'm just saying, if you're really interested in me, you'll be involved with a married man who has no idea how long it will take before he gets divorced. You're thinking about this the wrong way, Chad. How so? If she files for divorce, she'll be in control. You'll be served, and that could be bad. You have no idea what she might do. They might order you to leave the house and give it to her pending the hearings. What if she files and claims mental and physical cruelty and gets a restraining order keeping you away from her and the house? You need to set the pace, boss. You need to be in the driver's seat. Make her react, not the other way around. Besides, you'll be helping me a lot. Helping you? How? If you're going to wait and let her file, what if she doesn't? What if her lover doesn't give her the money for it? That could put us in a position of adultery, and she could use that against you in the future. You say she cheated, and she says, so what? You did too. If you file, you're stating that from your perspective, the marriage is over, and what you do from that point on is none of her business. Legally speaking, you'll still be married until the divorce is final, and being with me would technically still be considered adultery, but no court will hold that against you. If it doesn't start until after you've filed for divorce from Kathy, it seems I need to stay away from you until either you or she takes legal action. If we wait for her, it could take years, or maybe just a week, but it would be under her control. If you file, you could meet with a lawyer early tomorrow and serve Kathy by Thursday. That would give me the weekend to work on winning you over. Winning me over? I'm dead serious, boss. What's the point of being first in line if I don't take advantage of it? She was right, and I knew it. So, I pulled out my cell phone and speed-dialed Alex. Alex and I had been friends since third grade, and he was a lawyer who practiced family law, a polite term for divorce law. When he answered, I told him I needed his legal services and explained my situation. He expressed his sympathy because he and his wife, Sally, were our friends, and he liked Kathy, but he assured me he would take care of it as soon as he got to his office in the morning. He asked me to come by at lunchtime so I could sign the papers, and then we could grab lunch. Then, just to be a jerk, I told him I wanted a restraining order. I lied and said Kathy told me that if I caused her any trouble for leaving me, her lover, Tyrone, would straighten me out. Alex laughed and said he knew it was pure nonsense, but that he would still do it. You know there will be a hearing on this order within 10 days, right? I can get it and serve it, but there has to be a hearing before the judge will order it to stay in effect. I know, and I'm prepared for that. But right now, the main thing is to get her out of the house and keep her out for a while. We don't have kids, so she has no real reason to use the house while the divorce is ongoing. I'm sticking to the principle of possession is 9/10 of the law. There's no reason for a judge to order me out and let her in. That's what I'm aiming for. I told her to get out when we talked this morning, but I don't know what I'll find when I get home. She might be gone, or she might still be there. Since I can't be sure where she'll be, I plan to serve her at work. Is there no chance you two could come to some agreement? None. Then I'll see you tomorrow. I hung up, looked across the table at Maria, and asked, what do you have planned for me this weekend? She laid out her ideas, and they sounded pretty good to me. When I got home, Kathy was sitting at the kitchen table, going through some papers. Why are you still here? I asked, walking to the fridge and grabbing a beer. This is my house too. I'll stay here until I can make other arrangements. If you don't like my company, feel free to move out. Not in your damn life. Sit down, and let's discuss what we're going to do. There's nothing to discuss. I know what I'm going to do, and I don't care what you plan to do. There are things that need to be worked out, Chad. No, Kathy. There are no such questions. It's simple. You said you want a divorce, so go and get it. You need to hire a lawyer, file the papers, and cover all the court costs. What I will do is fight you tooth and nail for every little thing. We live in a no-fault state. Everything is split 50-50, so decisions will have to be made about who gets what in this mess. I'll drag this out to keep your attorney fees piling up. You know they don't work for free. right? You want the coffee table? Well, guess what? I want it too. You want the couch? Too bad, Kathy. It has great sentimental value to me, and I simply must have it. Why all of a sudden? You didn't seem to care about any of this before. You didn't even show any emotion when I told you I wanted a divorce. All you did was tell me to pack my things and get out. That was before I had time to think about it. I looked into her eyes and took a risk. I let you off the hook the first 3 times because you didn't want a divorce. I loved you enough to keep quiet and stay with you because you always came back to me. She turned away when I mentioned the first 3 times, which, as far as I could tell, confirmed my suspicions. It's hard to say why I stayed with you. I didn't file for divorce. I thought maybe I did something that really pissed you off, and you felt you had to do this to get back at me. Eventually, you'd end your affairs, and I foolishly thought it was because you realized you loved me and came back. I looked down at the floor and noticed the mess on my shoes. I thought this thing with Tyrone was just a repeat of the previous times, but now I see I was wrong. I've come to understand that you're nothing but a lowly cheater. If you hadn't decided to leave me for Tyrone and ended things with him, you'd be spreading your legs for some other jerk in 6 months or a year. Thinking about it, I realized I needed some form of revenge. What I really wanted to do was take a thick belt and beat you with it until your skin broke and you bled on the floor, but that would just land me in jail. The only thing I could do without ending up behind bars was to make this divorce as difficult and expensive as possible for you. You're right. This is also your home, and if you've decided to stay, I have to let you be here, but I don't have to like it, and I don't have to talk to you. Move your stuff to one of the spare bedrooms and stay the hell away from me. I finished my beer and went upstairs to what used to be our bedroom to get ready for bed. I thought I had accomplished what I set out to do. I had given her something to think about. She needed to discuss everything with Tyrone and make decisions, which would take time. Time that Alex would use to serve Kathy and secure the restraining order. I could be wrong. Maybe Kathy had already met with a lawyer and the papers were on their way to me. But it was likely that I had taken the remaining funds when I canceled the credit cards, and they were about what I expected when I withdrew the cash from the bank. If she had seen a lawyer, she would have used our money to pay him. Of course, Tyrone could have covered the bill. All I could do was wait and hope that Alex took the first step. I got up and left the house before Kathy came out of her bedroom. I went to a bed and breakfast cafe for breakfast, and while sipping my coffee, I made a list of people to call once Kathy was served. I wasn't going to let her make me the bad guy. I would tell everyone about the divorce and explain why it was happening. At work, Maria told me she was really looking forward to the weekend, and I found myself hoping it would happen. I met with Alex for lunch and signed the papers. He said he would head to the county building after lunch to file the petition. You still want her served at work? Damn right I do. I think around 10 tomorrow. Call me as soon as it happens. I want the locks changed before she can come back home. I returned to work and arranged for the next day off. Before leaving the office, I called a locksmith and scheduled a quick service for the following day. It cost me a bit more, but I felt it was worth it. When I got home, Kathy's car was in the driveway, but she must have decided to stay in her room and not get in my way because I didn't see her. I left the house before she came downstairs and went to a bed and breakfast cafe for breakfast. Nina asked me where Kathy was. I always saw you together, and here you are 2 days in a row without her. You won't see us together anymore. We're splitting up. I see, she said, taking my order. When she placed the bill on the table, she added, "My phone number is on the back, not the restaurant's number, mine." I was speechless as Nina walked away. 2 women in 2 days had shown interest, so why wasn't I enough for the woman I married? I would never know because I'd never ask. I drank my coffee and read the morning newspaper, waiting for the time when Kathy usually left for work. Then I went home and started packing Kathy's things, moving them to the garage. At 10:15, Alex called and said the papers had been served. I called the locksmith, and within 20 minutes, he was at work. It wasn't even an hour later when Kathy's car sped up the driveway. She couldn't miss the wide-open garage door and the large cardboard sign that read, "Kathy, all your things are here in the garage." She stood there staring at the sign for a minute, then tried to enter the house, but of course, her keys didn't work. She rang the doorbell, but I didn't answer, and eventually, she left. I peeked into the garage and saw she had taken a couple of bags of her things. 2 minutes after she drove off, my cell phone rang, and it was Kathy. "Hello, you're an a-hole. Did you really have to embarrass me in front of my colleagues? It's better than letting you humiliate me in front of mine. What the hell is this restraining order crap? I was afraid you'd ask Tyrone to come and beat me up for being rude to you. That's why. And you know it. I need to get into the house to grab some things. All your things are in the garage. Kathy, I didn't change the garage door code, so your opener will work. If what you need isn't there, make a list and tell me where it is, and I'll move it to the garage. Stop being ridiculous, Chad. You're making this much harder than it needs to be. Sorry, Kathy. Causing you some inconvenience doesn't adequately pay back the years you tormented me. But I need to do something for my own mental health. Just be grateful I didn't get violent. Goodbye. After hanging up on Kathy, I sat down with the phone and started calling everyone on my list. Most were shocked to hear that Kathy had cheated on me, but 2 weren't surprised. One said, "Finally caught her, huh?" And the other remarked, "I always thought you had an open marriage. She was always out with some guy, and you never mentioned it." I figured I could cross those 2 off my friends list. Kathy's parents were the most affected by the news and tried to tell me I must be mistaken. I always liked them, and they treated me almost like the son they never had. But I wasn't going to let Kathy tell them her version and make it seem like it was all my fault. If I let that happen, they would think poorly of me, and I didn't want that. After dealing with the calls, I went through the house one more time to gather Kathy's things, then made myself lunch. I had just finished eating when the guys from Aries Security arrived, clearly not trusting me in the slightest and having no doubt that Kathy would violate the restraining order and try to break into the house. I decided to install a security system, complete with cameras, after Kathy's actions. On Thursday at work, I told Maria that we were ready to go for the weekend. She smiled, clearly excited. "Tomorrow night, dinner and dancing to start with," she said, returning my grin. When I got home, Kathy did exactly what I expected. She took some of her things and then broke into the house through the connecting door from the garage. The kitchen was a disaster. Plates and glasses were smashed all over the floor, and in the living room, several lamps were broken. But what made me smile was the sight of her pulling all my clothes out of the closet, piling them on the floor, and then she peed on them. All of this was recorded, showing not only that she violated the restraining order but also acted maliciously and destructively. This was evidence I could use at the restraining order hearing. I called Alex, and he contacted the police. They arrived, took a report, and snapped some photos. The next day, Kathy was arrested at work and taken to jail. She was fingerprinted, photographed, and brought before a judge, charged with violating the restraining order and willful destruction of private property. To my surprise, the judge set a hearing date and released Kathy on her own recognizance. Despite the chaos, my date with Maria was fun, and we scheduled a second date for Saturday. That too went well, and on Sunday, we enjoyed a lovely picnic together. On Monday, there was a hearing for the restraining order. When the judge saw the security camera footage, he not only made the restraining order permanent, but also ordered me to replace all the destroyed items, pay for the dry cleaning of my clothes, and cover the cost of cleaning the bedroom. He gave her 10 days to comply or face jail time for contempt of court. Just to be a jerk, I hired the most expensive cleaning company I could find to do the job. To my disappointment, Kathy managed to get the money to do everything the judge ordered. I never got to see Kathy jailed for contempt of court. The next 2 weeks passed, and Maria and I met often, but nothing more happened beyond a few kisses, sometimes quite intense, because neither of us felt comfortable since I was still a married man. However, we were slowly approaching the point where things were getting serious. We did not contest the divorce, and it was finalized in 6 months. It was a standard no-fault divorce, with everything split equally. I refinanced the house and bought out Kathy's share. I had been saving money in a separate account for an unexpected round-the-world trip to celebrate our anniversary, and since she didn't know about it, I didn't give her a cent. She also had no idea about the last 2 certificates of deposit I had placed in the safe, which I bought with my last 2 bonus checks. I had one more small victory. Kathy was awarded alimony for 2 years, or until she remarried, but it was set at only $100 a week instead of the $500 she had tried to get. This was unexpected, and Alex told me it was because we were very lucky with the judges assigned to my cases. The judge who presided over the restraining order hearing and the judge who oversaw the divorce were not only cousins who apparently discussed their cases, but they also both had cheating wives in the past. Neither of the judges believed that an innocent husband should be punished for the actions of a cheating wife. While they adhered to the law, they didn't go beyond what was required. Whatever Kathy had with Tyrone clearly wasn't that great, as 7 months after the divorce was finalized, she was living with her parents. 8 months post-divorce, I found myself at a bar in the Hilton, enjoying a beer and a steak sandwich for lunch. That's when someone took the stool next to me and asked, "Can I buy you a beer?" I turned to see my ex-wife's former lover. Curious, I invited him to continue. He signaled to Agnes and ordered us both a beer. After she brought them, he took a sip and set his glass down, staring at it for a few moments as he began peeling the label off the bottle. A small pile of label bits formed in front of him before he spoke. I didn't mean to screw things up for you, he said, still not looking up. The night I met her, she wasn't wearing any wedding rings, so I had no idea she was married. She definitely wasn't acting like a married woman. She was at Bud's bar with a group of girls she worked with, and when I asked her to dance, she agreed. I bought her a drink, and she invited me to sit with her and the other girls. We danced 3 more times, and when I asked her out, she agreed. I quickly fell head over heels for her, and within a month, we were having sex whenever we could manage to meet up. Initially, we had to use motels since I was living with 2 roommates, and one of them was always around. We couldn't go to her place either, as she claimed she lived with her disabled mother, which also explained why we couldn't see each other more often. She said she could only go out when someone else was available to look after her mom. Eventually, I got my own apartment, so we didn't need to rely on motels anymore. Even though our meetings were irregular, I was in love with her and was planning to propose. I intended to buy a house big enough for the 2 of us and her mother. But just before I could pop the question, a guy I knew asked me why I was dating a cheater. I was ready to confront him when he revealed that Kathy was married and had a history of infidelity. It turned out she had cheated on you with his brother 2 years prior, and when her husband found out, he ended things with her. At first, I found it hard to believe, but then I received your letter. I sat on it for a week before confronting her, and she broke down in tears. She claimed she didn't love you, portraying you as an abusive drunk who physically beat her and tormented her emotionally. She insisted she hated you but was afraid to leave, because you supposedly threatened to track her down and kill her and anyone she was with. By that point, I had done some digging and realized she was lying, which erased any thoughts of marrying her. Still, she was good in bed, and since you had kicked her out, I let her move in with me, but only as long as she was willing to sleep with me. Everything was fine until the divorce was finalized and she began talking about marriage. That's when I ended it. My parents had split up because my mom cheated on my dad. He got custody of me, and she later remarried but was caught cheating on her second husband. She married a 3rd time and cheated again. I firmly believe in the saying, once a cheater, always a cheater. So I made it clear to Kathy that as long as she was okay with a friends with benefits arrangement, we were fine, but nothing more. About 3 weeks later, I came home from work to find she was gone. He took another sip of his beer and said there were rumors that I had known all along about our affair. He asked why I didn't divorce her immediately. I shrugged and replied, "You said it yourself. She was damn good in bed." I decided to let things be, enjoying the sex and the fact that there was someone to cook, clean the house, and do the laundry. I probably would have stayed in that arrangement if she hadn't mentioned leaving and wanting a divorce. He took another sip and added, "I never thought I'd say this, especially to you, but I miss having her in my bed." He finished his beer, stood up, took something out of his pocket, placed it on the counter, and pushed it toward me. "What is this? The lottery ticket you gave me?" I asked, surprised. "It's a winner. This is your half." He handed me a cashier's check for a substantial amount, a very, very large amount. "I waited to give it to you so you wouldn't have to split it with her in the divorce. See you around." And just like that, he left. When I returned to the office, Jan, my assistant, looked at me and said, "You look like the cat that just ate the canary. Was lunch that good?" I smiled. "Lunch was impressive." "Oh right," Jan said, remembering. "Maria no longer works for you, huh?" "Not in the office. She's home painting the room that will become the nursery when the twins arrive." Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.